Hello and welcome everybody. Welcome to our second pre-event webinar as part of the upcoming APAC DNS Forum. So our topic for today is how fraudsters evade DNS abuse detection and how we can combat it. And this webinar will be led by CSC. So without further ado, I'll hand it over to Fernando. Fernando, please. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Melody. Hello, everyone. It's a pleasure to be on this panel with the panel is very important people around me today. My name is Fernando Ceballos. I am the product manager for the anti-fraud service at CSC. I also lead the development team for the anti-fraud side and the 3D service. I've been on the cybersecurity space and more precise on the anti-fraud side of technology for over 16 years now. And I'm happy to take part on this webinar and present you some of the concepts of how the fraudsters are abusing DNS to their advantage to target the online users, and we'll do some discussion with the panelists on how to prevent this. What are some of the suggestions that they see from their side of the coin? So let me allow them to introduce themselves. I'll please request Benedict Chen to please give us a brief introduction of yourself. I think you're muted, Benedict. It's, I think he's having some technical issues. Let's move on to Kenny and then to
Sorry.
Oh, there you go. Go ahead, Benedict. Sorry about that. Go ahead.
I do have some technical issue this morning. Apologies. Hi, morning, everyone. It's a pleasure joining the panel today. I'm Benedict Chang. I'm actually the Chief Risk Officer for PCW HKT Group, based in Hong Kong. So I've been with the company since 2019. So I basically head up all the risk functions, compliance, including cybersecurity. For me, it's a very interesting job that I do. Basically, everything that happens 24/7 is sort of would come to my attention. So I'm happy to be here today to share my experience with my peers in the panel.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Benedict. Now, Dr. Kenny Huang, could you please go ahead?
Thank you. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. I'm Kenny Huang, Chair of Taiwan Network Information Center and Chair of Asia Pacific Network Information Center. And it's my pleasure to join the panel discussion. I'm happy to share some of the experience and also happy to discuss with all the distinguished panelists about this issue. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Doctor. Now we can move to David. David Liu, please go ahead.
Hello, everyone. I'm David from Line Taiwan, and Line is the biggest messenger in Japan, Taiwan, and Thailand. And I am the lead of our Taiwan security team, and my team is analyzing the reusing for many years. So it's my pleasure here to share our findings and experience with everyone here. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, David. And once again, my name is Fernando Ceballos, and I'll be sharing some of the slides here. But I'm eager to hear what our panelists also have to contribute. Briefly, this is the agenda that we're going to go over. I'm trying not to bore you with my slide presentation, so I'm just going to briefly go through it, try to give an idea of what is the topic that we're discussing here, and then we'll move on to the discussion portion of the webinar. Okay, so the first thing is what is the DNS the abuse and how fraudsters evade the DNS abuse detection. To begin with, we need to establish the topic and what is the DNS abuse. And the DNS abuse basically means the means and the ways that online attackers, online scammers exploit all of the features of DNS to get themselves as situated in positions that allows them to confuse people online. One of the reasons we see this as some type of as the abuse of the DNS system is that the commoditization of these domain names, the reduction in cost, multiple TLDs, internet policies, and unlimited access to validation of the registrants is what creates the perfect opportunity, the perfect storm, if you want to call it, or the perfect scenario for the scammers to launch their attacks. When an online scammer purchases a domain name, there's very little time for the people on the good side, the white hats, to try to detect their intentions, their reasoning behind their domain registration. There's also limited information about who is behind the registration. So all of these things is what allows them to abuse the DNS system. Why is this a problem? It's because it has targeting all over the world. Recently, on the FTC, the Federal Trade Commission in the U.S., made us aware that in 2023 there was a $10 billion in losses with online scam. This includes several fronts of online scam, but the important number here is that now it's reaching $10 billion, which is increasing every year, and every year hits the highest point that it has ever been. We also see some examples in the UK where the government over there also mentions that they see a 40% increase for cybercrime victims in the UK. The same goes for Singapore, and the same goes for Australia, where they see a high increment in the number of attacks and people being harmed by this activity. Additionally to that, we need to understand, what can be launched by these DNS abuse. What happens when scammers, or what do they get once they perpetrate a domain registration and therefore an abuse of a domain name. And everything pretty much can be launched from a DNS attack or from a DNS perspective. There's some malware that can be sent from these locations, from these domain-based threats. There's typo squatting, the typical typo squatting, where there's the confusion that once the scammers want to hit the consumers with. They will be replacing characters. They will be using IDNs, international domain names, with the non-English characters. That allows them to increase the chances of finding a domain name that is going to confuse the victims. Phishing, which is my topic of expertise. Phishing is all over the place. There's more and more evidence that fraud and phishing itself has increased because of the domain registration. On a daily basis, we see a huge volume of domain names that get registered all over the place in several TLDs, several countries, and this facilitates the registration of these domain names. Sometimes it becomes a game of whack-a-mole trying to combat phishing from our end. There's also some brand impersonation that can be launched from these threat vectors. There's also the problem with spam. And of course, the impersonations, the BC scams, the profile scams, lob scams, all of those. All of these types of threats can be launched from a domain name, and this is why we're focusing on talking about this. I was preparing for this presentation, and I came across this image from the Singapore police, where they list the top 10 scams of concern. And while I was going over it, I was trying to identify which one of these use the domain name as the platform for their scams. And I was going over one by one, and job scams, for example, it has a huge target of victims, and it's domain based. In several instances where I have observed is that scammers, they will purchase a domain name that is very close to an organization that is hiring in a particular country. Then they send their mass email campaign, and there's a lot of victims that they're willing to pay to get a chance at landing a job. Same goes for e-commerce. They purchase domain names that are very close for comfort, and that's how they confuse the online shoppers, pretending to be the brand that they're trying to acquire. On fake friend calls and scams, probably domain names are not necessarily the base of these, but once they go through the scam, domain names is typically used on these scams. Phishing, like I mentioned before, phishing is right now is on the apex of the attacks with the domain registrations, investment scams, and so forth. The list goes on, right? Every of these types of scams, all of them use a domain name as the base of for their attack. So this is a very concerning topic and a very concerning threat that we must unite our efforts in order to try to combat and protect the public in general against these targets, these threats. So how do they abuse the DNS? Scammers will use every inch that is available to them. Every single aspect of DNS, of the DNS system, how it works, how it interacts throughout the world, how it gets propagated, how it gets shared. Even within those little seams, I've seen scammers hiding and taking advantage of those little um, crevices on the system of the domain names registrations, and they take advantage of this. One of the things that I've noticed, from personal experience, is that there's a limited access to domain registration and zone files. What this does is that sometimes scammers, they are able to identify which zone files are hard to obtain information about, and then they hide themselves there. They go and register domain names there. They put some dormant domains there, and then they launch the attacks from those TLDs. There's also the problem of delayed access to zone files. Being that zone files are published in a daily manner, they're not live necessarily published. They're not necessarily published live. That gap of information between, say, when we get the information at 3 a.m. in the morning, and then somebody registers a domain at 5 a.m., then they have 24 hours for them to do their their scams or their fraud cases, and until we have information about them. So we need to rely on some other techniques to be able to get this information. Also, limited access to the registrant information. I see that a lot, that sometimes it's impossible to validate if a domain name is truly the organization that they represent. Then I also see that there's these non-standardized attempts to solve some disputes. Sometimes, we come across the concept of bulletproof registrars. There's just no limited amount of time where they have to respond. So these are the things that scammers utilize to their advantage. And I'm sure that the panelists are going to have some of their experience that I also want to share with us. But as you can see, within the system itself, and I'm not blaming the system, and of course I'm blaming the scammers, they take advantage of these tiny gaps of coverage, and that's where they launch their attacks from. Why is this important, or why is this dangerous for all of us? It's because it weakens the foundation of a secure internet. If people don't feel the security or the trust that exists on the internet, people are starting to get, they start to get deterred from interacting online. They try to do things more face to face, right? And that's not what we want. We want everyone to be able to use the internet and do transactions throughout the internet. That goes along also with the trust of erosion. Additionally to this, it harms the entity's reputation, not only for businesses, not only for financial institutions. Government also gets hit with this. If there's a domain name that resembles governments around the globe, for what I've seen, the trust in that also diminishes. And any program that was launched by governments, they get they lose trust, right? The people don't feel confident about interacting with the system. So that's also harmful for us. And then also the impact for online businesses and brand value perception. If a brand starts getting too much too many infringements, it's very noticeable for people that there's a lot of scams with a brand in particular. People will start losing trust, and the value perception of that brand also starts going down. And of course, we have a financial losses and compromise of digital infrastructure. So all of that is the reason why we need to find better solutions, buy better techniques on why we want to collaborate on the to combat the abuse on the internet. Some of the current solutions that we have at the moment are the laws and regulations. We have some of the policies from ICANN, from policies from registrars. They try to do as much as possible to know their customers. They try to put some contractual limitations and all of those policies, but it's never enough, right? From the technology side, we have the encryption, the training, we have the protocols, sinkholes, block lists, all of that. But still, there's always they always find a way to combat all of this. And then the portion that we're trying to always increase is the collaboration. More access to data sharing, more browser blocking, more partnerships. The concept of trusted notifier is one of the important ones that we have at the moment, but we probably need to expand a little bit. So that's the problem that we're facing at the moment, and what we need. What needs to change, right? From the multiple perspective of our panelists, I'm gonna give them the opportunity to tell us these points on the discussion. What needs to change to improve or to reduce the DNS abuse? Also, who should implement these changes, and also who should advocate for this? I understand that this probably could come from organizations and all of that, but I want to hear the perspective from our panelists. So if you don't mind, I'm gonna give the word to David. If you don't mind, please give us your thoughts on these points.
Thank you, Fernando. So from the platform viewpoints, I think the first thing that we need to change is the collaborations between the platform players and the infrastructure service provider. For example, for the domain name registers. For example, I think the scan happens at what we see on our platform is the phishing is the start point about the attack, the scam attack. So the users will be misled to the fake websites, and they might be lead to install the malwares, or they will use the phishing site to add the fake the social network accounts, for example, the KOL, their accounts, and they do the scams in the chat rooms or on the social network platforms, so that they can avoid the detection, because we need time to detect the domain name abusing, and also we need time to take down that. So I think that's both the platform players and the infrastructure player, we need to collaborate together to share the information and build a mechanism to take down this kind of usings in a very fast, in a short time, to protect our users. Yeah, this is my suggestion from our viewpoints. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you, David. Dr. Kinney, if you don't mind giving us your thoughts. Dr. Wayne, you're muted.
Sorry, can you hear me?
Yeah, don't worry, it happens to all of us.
Sorry, it's my bad. Thank you, Fernando, and thank you, David, to share your view. And starting from the discussion, who need to change? Basically, who are most influential in the internet, especially in the cyberspace? I believe the internet intermediaries, such as platform provider and hosting provider, and or cloud service product provider, registrar. They are most influential to dominate the internet structure. So they are the top tier stakeholder need to discuss how to mitigate that kind of issue. I believe this kind of stakeholder need to discuss how can they work together and to mitigate that kind of issues. And of course, from standard legal point of view, prosecutor office, police department, they are working on this issue pretty hard, but basically still need to collaborate with the internet intermediary. Otherwise, it's very difficult for them to step in, because most of the cyber attack or most of the cyber crime and basically most likely outside their jurisdiction. So if you based on the any case outside the jurisdiction, and based on traditional way, try to solve the problem, for example, like a MLAB mutual legal assistance treaty, almost likely a dead end to solve the problem. And who should implement this change? As I say, the most influential internet intermediary should implement that kind of mechanism to implement that kind of mitigation action to try to stop and try to mitigate and any cybercrime. And of course, we not only discuss this issue from not only from a regulation point of view, but also need to discuss from technical point of view, also need to discuss from internet governance point of view. Explore all kind of approach to see which one will be the best, not the best, which one will be appropriate to adopt. Either we try to adopt a policy. For example, I can try to advocate a new agreement, amendment to the new agreement, such as public interest commitment, such as registrar voluntary commitment. And that kind of amendment will be very helpful to enforce the registrar or registry try to improve their cybersecurity, and also try to discuss from regulation point of view and to see whether, of course, regulation probably cover only within your jurisdiction, but that still help. For example, like Taiwan, our lawmakers spend a lot of time trying to discuss what kind of regulation we need to introduce and need to improve and to stop that kind of situation in the cyberspace. So that's from regulation point of view. And the third would be technical point of view. For example, do we need to invent any advanced protocol to stop or try to mitigate that kind of abusive behavior? And that's from technical point of view. Or do we have technical solution ready that can help registry, registrar, or internet intermediary to accelerate their process in dealing with that kind of abuse? So I believe at least we need to work from these three dimensions, from regulation point of view, from technical point of view, from internet governance, self-voluntary point of view, to explore what would be the best way to approach. Thank you very much.
Very good. Very good. Thank you, Doctor. And Mr. Cheng, if you don't mind giving us, sharing your thoughts with us.
Oh, my turn. Okay. I think the question is about social media platform, right? How do we feel about Fisher using the platform as a channel to deliver scam?
Yeah. So basically, what would you like to see change in the DNS environment and ecosystem so that we can prevent all of these abuse that gets triggered?
I echo with what Kenny mentioned earlier, and also David. I think you need to have a stronger ties between the private sector and the government and the authorities when it comes to any abuse of any sort of the internet usage or the usage of the social media platform, right? I think the challenges right now we're seeing is that there is not a common sort of theme from a regulatory perspective in terms of how the whole social media platform should be governed, and also in terms of scope, in terms of you know, the intended purpose of delivering certain message or certain you know, to the mass audience, to the mass public, right? So I do agree, and also I think it also boils down to the companies or the players or the participants in the industry, their understanding of privacy, the importance of privacy, whether or not they, as a company, they have set out, you know, proper data governance framework. You know, do they have like encryption? Do they have data retention in place? How do they govern data at rest, data in transit? All the other, the security, like whether it's through designated secure channel, VPN, any sort of internal environment, aggregated data during transit, and also as a whole, the governance structure around the data life cycle, right? So I think these are perhaps more micro, more peculiar to individual participant, but as a whole, I think the concept of data governance management and framework is also very important, right?
Very good, very good. From your perspective in your organization, what trends have you observed that have been used on the DNS side, targeting or being abused by scammers?
I think what we have seen, right, instead of having general attack, I think we are seeing more and more targeted attack. So there's like a specific agenda behind the attack, right? Whether to steal data or to make financial gain, or targeting certain individual in an organization or certain position, certain role, and it's becoming more complex, right, in terms of the scheme, like how they actually implement the attack. So as a data user, for example, ourselves, we are a telecom company, so we own a lot of data, right? We've got a lot of mobile users, network users. So the key is actually work very closely, among ourselves internally with the different business units, our engineering department, our cybersecurity team, risk management, my team, as well as also the infrastructure people. At the same time, we also work very closely with the regulator, law enforcement unit, in handling any sort of spam or attack or SMS messaging. So I think it's really around the awareness of how you want to handle and how quick you can handle or respond to the attack.
Very good, very good. And then for David, on your line of work, once you've experienced these type of abuses, what type of tools is your organization using to combat this? Do you resort to technical tools to resolve this? Do you go to the legal side? Do you go into the collaboration of other peers? How do you approach this phenomenon?
Okay, so from our viewpoint, that we saw a lot of attack launched by the abusers who are using the phishing websites. So for now, we mainly do the two things. The first one is we collaborate with our users. So we launched a new service. We launched a service we call the Fact Checker. And this service, we collaborate with the private sector who are third parties to identify if the information is true or false, and also they are helping our users to identify if this kind of websites or this kind of information is true or false, or accounts. As I just mentioned, that from our side, we see that the phishing is just a start point. Their goal is to guide the users to add some accounts on the social network and to engage a user to do the scams. So we help our users to just check if this kind of account is trustworthy or not. And also, we are empowering our users to report to the police, because sometimes we are not the victims of the scam, because after the scammer engage with our users. So we provide some information to our users on our products. Then the users is able to use this kind of information to report to the police. And this is the first part that we help our users to identify or to help themselves to handle the scam issues. And the second part is we are trying to we build a system to monitor the scam websites, and also we dig more scam websites from information that we got from once we got one scam website, then we will use some features to dig more scam websites. And for now, we are trying to engage with the law enforcement. And also we are trying to engage some infrastructure players. And also we are engaged with others social network platforms to share the findings from us. Yeah, that's what we are doing. That because I think as a platform that we need to let the information to be can be shared very fluently to speed up the process to take down these kind of websites. And yeah, thank you.
Very good. And just as a follow-up question, do you see in your line of work that phishing is being merged with other types of scams, or is it just phishing that it's still, like a single line of crime? Is it mixed with something else?
I think a scammer is very organized. I think the scam, from our experience, phishing is just a part of the scam activities. We found that, as you mentioned, that the top one in Singapore is a job scam, right? So in Taiwan, we see that the scammer, they're doing a job scans, as they ask a user to provide a work opportunity about a video or book, audio book to the users, and ask the victim to record some of their voice to as an interview. Then they use the generative AI to train their voice, and then they use a phishing website to take over their social network accounts and use their voice to call their friends to do another scam. Yep. I think this is a very it's become more and more common scenario right now, because they are very organized, and they will not only use the phishing site to phish one users, they will maximize their profits by using more result they obtain from the victims to phish to do the scam to scam their friends. Yep, this is what we are finding in our platform. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you, David. Thank you. Yeah, no, one of the things that I have observed, and probably at the beginning of the AI revolution, has been that the scammers use these voice replicators to target large fish, let's call them, CEOs or big names in the industry. But as it develops more and more and it becomes more commoditized and available to everyone, I am sure that it's going to start hitting the individuals, let's call them, not to call them little people, but the common individual. And like you said, targeting friends and people that, might be completely unaware of this. So AI is on its infancy right now, and I'm sure that we're going to see a lot of that in the future, and that's something that we also need to prepare. A question for Dr. Kenny. It says that Taiwan has a robust discussion on the internet governance. How do you think that the privacy concerns should balance themselves between sharing information and securing the information, making the information private, and which parts should be available for all of us to validate the information?
Okay, basically, I think all the internet starting from security will be most concerned, especially personal privacy. So talking about internet governance, the internet governance majority of the effort was contributed by self-voluntary activity. For example, like the agreement with ICANN and a self-volunteer behavior, and that kind of agreement. For example, like a protocol. Protocol is also self-voluntary protocol, and there's no enforceability to a service provider to adopt certain protocol. So all that kind of activity basically based on self-voluntary. So that's the key recipe of the internet governance. And regarding to your question in terms of privacy, basically privacy is extremely concerned from majority user. For example, like who is for domain name, basically most of the who is, even we are not in the Europe, but all the .tw registration, they need to comply with a GDPR requirement. And so as long as we get agreement from the registrant, otherwise we don't disclose their privacy information through who is service. So that's make a cyber scam even more difficult for law enforcement agent, or even difficult for, especially from law enforcement agent from different countries, because most likely the WHOIS service is not available. All the data is not available to them because of privacy consideration. So what we do in Taiwan, we have special channel with law enforcement agent, either from police department or from high prosecutor office. We build a special connection with them and to provide the required data that as they request for any particular crime. For example, if they request for any particular domain name, and because of they provide evidence, and we can provide them that kind of information to them. And especially a lot of scam basically happen in Taiwan. A lot of scam discovered in Taiwan are running their scam from overseas. So it's very difficult for us to mitigate that kind of scam, especially if there are any domain name registration, they are registered outside of Taiwan. For example, they register under XYZ or register under .com. And it's very difficult for us to get a personal information from .com or .xyz because unless we have court order. And the court order also need to go through the international legal agreement. So it makes it very, very complicated. Instead of doing the traditional legal way, and we try to collaborate with, we try to run in similar programs, same as DSP, Digital Service Act, and that's running in, that's regulated in Europe. And we call trust notifier. And we identify some trust notifier. For example, in Taiwan, we identify law enforcement agent as our trust notifier. As long as they reporting us there's a scam, and we can take immediate action and providing with all kind of process, due diligence process. And so we identify the trust notifier and make that kind of process even faster. And in addition to government authority, we also identify trust notifier. For example, like a CSP, CSC is also our trust notifier partner. Any reporting from CSC, we can take immediate action. And because there's some requirement from trust notifier, they need to provide evidence. So based on that well-written evidence, we can take very speed up the process. We can take immediate action regarding to that kind of request. And so, and what we're trying to do, we try to expand the coverage of trust notifier in not only sign agreement with TWN, not only sign agreement with CSC, we also sign agreement with Asia. And we also hope, and there can be more collaboration between different registrar to collaborate with that kind of particular issue, because we are using the same technology, using the same language, follow the same registration model and same business model. So it's easy to identify each other as a trust notifier to expand the security coverage. And I think that would be quite effective to mitigate that kind of scam. Thank you very
Definitely.
much.
Yeah, no, definitely. I agree. And thank you, Doctor, for that. I definitely agree with what you mentioned, having that level of trust between one reporting party and the receiving party is what can expedite a lot of the processes and the takedowns on the content removal when it comes to scams. And as a follow-up question to what you mentioned, who do you think should be allowed to be a trusted notifier? Do you think that it should be available to a large set of audience, or should it just be limited to some organizations? Will they need to qualify? How do you see that from your end?
Okay, from my point of view, is it?
Yes.
Yes, because the trust notifier is not really it's not ICANN policy. It's almost like it's a bottom-up policy just developed by registrar by ourselves. So we don't have very clear criteria, but basically we have some basic rough guideline to see how we can identify trust notifier. For example, like the government authority authorized a law enforcement agent that can be considered as a potential trust notifier as long as they have research capability and operational capability to dealing with that kind of scheme abuse. And also like a registrar, they are perfect trust notifier candidate, and providing that they need to demonstrate they have capability to dealing with that kind of abuse, and they have capacity to dealing with that kind of abuse. And based on that kind of very basic principle, I think we can quickly identify and try to set up a pilot run for the trust notifier scheme. And once the scheme getting expanded, I think we can try to standardize that kind of recognition process for trust notifier. And as long as we have common understanding and common criterion, and based on our best practice, we can identify trust notifier criterion even more precisely. Thank you.
Excellent. Excellent. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Kenny, for that. And now I have a question for Kenny. I'm sorry, for Benedict. Following along the lines of these sharing of information and becoming knowing who is behind a domain name, who is behind an email or a campaign, let's say. I understand that Benedict, I understand that Hong Kong has implemented an SMS sender registration, I believe. And can you tell us a little bit more about that? This is something that does not happen here in the US, and I'm sure it doesn't happen in several countries. So can you tell us a little bit about how it works and how you think it might help reduce the scams through SMS?
Yeah, sure, Fernando. So this is, it's called the SMS Sender Registration Scheme. Hong Kong Telecom, our company, is actually the initiator of this scheme, right? Basically, what it does is whenever a text message is being sent as a receiver, you will be seeing a hash mark, a hashtag in front of the name of the company. So then you know that that is a genuine message being sent from that company, right? For example, may it be a bank, can be a consumer company or e-commerce platform, and etc. This is really, I mean, the scheme really is for the we call the good guys rather than the bad guys, right? Who are actually running legitimate business as opposed to running spam call business, right? So they need to register with the OFCA, the regulator in Hong Kong. It is a good feature in a way, but it's still at a sort of a preliminary stage. I think the government, the OFCA, the regulator, and also ourselves as service provider, we're actually promoting the scheme, right, to cover more companies, right? So, but the major, the banks and the big sort of companies, I think most of them has already adopted. So I think this will give more comfort to people when they see the message coming in. They see the hashtag and they know that it's a genuine message. So hopefully the goal is to promote this scheme to all the companies in Hong Kong. So then we can reduce the number of scam cases, right? Because that again, as mentioned by Kenny and also David, is whenever we see there's a problematic or fraudulent link or domain, website, what have you, it's extremely difficult and time consuming to try to take it down, right? I mean, obviously we work with CSC, your company. At the same time, we also work with the police. They've got a cybersecurity unit. They got the commercial crime bureau. So it's a and also like when you actually try to take down something, again, jurisdiction is always a problem. If it's not Hong Kong, then we can't do anything about it. Even the local authorities. If it's registered in the US or other countries in Europe, then it will take forever. So I think this SMS sender registration scheme is a good feature to help to mitigate the risk.
Excellent. It's a very interesting idea that I'm sure the other countries can also explore. I foresee that there will be some type of pushback from the sense of who is going to store all of this information, who can be the central point of authority. But the concept it's pretty good. And do you foresee that you eventually, for example, let's in an ideal world, let's say that everyone implements these technology in Hong Kong. Do you see the possibility of blocking domains messages that are not sent with a validation scheme?
Yeah, Fernando, I think the other aspect we actually also need to consider, right? If you look at the history of SMS, right? I think the first SMS message was actually sent on, if I remember correctly, was on the 3rd of December, 1992, right? That was like 30 years ago, yeah?
Yeah.
And yeah, so it's a long time. Now, we are on the 5G network, right? Obviously, so that's a big change, obviously, for the whole world in terms of communication, right? Faster speed, better coverage, right? And so on and so forth, right? But we also have to remember at the same time, we are still running on some legacy 3G and 4G platforms, right? And we all know that the standards for those platforms are actually not perfect, right? They are faulty, right? Now, I wouldn't say faulty, probably more obsolete, I would say. Yeah, that's probably a more appropriate word to describe it. So we're now looking at 6G, right? So 6G, we expect to come in probably in the 2030. So another few years to come. So when 6G comes in, obviously, I think hopefully we can get rid of all the legacy 3G, 4G sort of formats, right? So I think until that happens, there's still a risk of SMS phishing, right? It's just because the stuff is not perfect. So I don't see a perfect world, to be honest, but I would see a perfect world of more collaboration between telecom operators and companies and also authorities. At the same time, people have more training, more awareness of what's happening, right? In the grand scheme of things.
Yeah, no, excellent. Yeah, no, I'm always hoping that we as an industry we come up with a better tool, a better protocol, a better technique to combat this. Of course, so some of our jobs depend on that type of activity, but at the same time, it's a very harmful activity that it impacts several people across the globe, across platforms, across multiple languages and countries and all of that. So one of the things that also is catching my attention, David, from your perspective, I understand that you have some experience with the not only the SMS messages, but also messages that are sent through social media. And I'm talking about the WhatsApp messages, Telegrams. There's some other WeChats in Asia. How do you see that? How do you foresee or suggest that we use some of the technology to have something similar that we have in Hong Kong with the SMS?
Okay, thank you. For now, we are seeking the possibility to check if we can using the certified users, but it would be a very huge cost because I think the communication from the user to user is a nature need, yeah, from the peoples. So I am thinking that we are thinking that if we can provide a more trust network by encouraging users to verify their accounts with some third parties. We are not aiming to become an authorization center, but we are trying to leverage other possible user identification solutions. For example, maybe we can link with the bank because the bank is doing the KYC, right? So maybe we can leverage from our viewpoints. Maybe our as a messenger platform, maybe we can collaborate with other external partners to make our environment more safer. And we are not only for this kind of to prove the account is safer or not, but also we are trying to leveraging other information from external threat intelligence like CSC or other, for example, Kenny just mentioned that the trust notifiers. So I think once this kind of channel or protocol can be set up, then as a platform players, not only for a messenger, but also for the infrastructure, for the DNS, for DN domain name managers, we can use this. You can use this kind of information to identify if users are talking with trustworthy accounts or not, or they are accessing a trustworthy destination or not. So that is what we are considering, and to build an ecosystem with more information about if the contact party is a trustworthy one. Yeah, that is what we are doing right now. Thank you.
Excellent. So as a follow-up to that very interesting idea, do you see your organization offering some type of access, number one, for not necessarily scanning, because conversations, can be encrypted from end to point end, but any type of way to identify when there is a scam going on through your network, and that's number one. And number two, when, let's say, a company like CSC identifies someone misusing your technology, do you foresee that you could make available some type of API or a portal or a way to communicate directly with the system to say this person is abusing your technology, block their content?
Okay, so let me answer the second question first. And actually, we are seeking the possibility to exchange the information that we found, and also we need to get input from others. But this kind of project we are still evaluate, because we need to change our infrastructure, and also we need to change our accounts identification system. But I think this is worthy. This is worthy to try to let user to be easier to identify these accounts. Is a trusted account, or this suspicious account based on more information that we got. And for the first question, that actually we already implement the end-to-end encryption. So actually we cannot we cannot look into the conversation from the users, and also from the regulation that we are not able to inspect or to do some supervision to users' chats. So I think all of the messenger have this problem as well. So that's why we empower our users by providing more information, for example, the fact checker services. And also we would like to, that is why, and also the reason that we need to cooperate with other external parties, for example, like trust notifier system. That's because we need to use external information to help our user to do this, because we cannot, for the privacy reason, we cannot look into the conversation between the users. Yep.
Excellent. Thank you. Thank you very much. Kenny, from your perspective, when you hear these level of collaborations, how with among organizations, how open is your organization towards sharing these tools? Sometimes, and from my perspective, sometimes customers think that we have a button under our desk where we push a button and the scam will go down. And sometimes it's interesting to explain to them what are the multiple events that need to occur before we can validate something is malicious and then communicate it with the correct party. So from your end, Kenny, how do you see the feasibility to come up with something like that will allow all of us to share and bring content down based on some criteria?
Okay, right. Thank you. Let's relate to technology. Probably that's a little bit difficult from technical point of view, because once we're receiving a complaint reporting to certain phishing or reporting to certain scam, basically we need to have a formal way to do the due diligence to validate whether it's a real scam or not. And we not only need to validate the people, but I also need to validate the content. And for content moderation, basically that will be pretty weak from registry point of view. Basically, registrar, they are not good at the content moderation, and because we are just domain name provider. We provide a domain name with access to a particular website, so we hardly do the content moderation. But we still need to do from different point of view. For example, if some of the website they are phishing, and they probably adopt some sort of technology from open source. So we can try to find a fingerprint of the open source to identify whether the website they adopt the phishing software or not. And that's from technical point of view, we can have a partial effort to identify the potential phishing. But in addition to phishing, probably not available to all kind of technical tools, because based on right now phishing or scam, they are pretty much target phishing or target scam. So they try to using different package, different way of implementation, different action. So it's a little bit hard for us to identify any potential crime. That's why I mentioned we need to collaborate with more and more partners, especially collaborate with law enforcement agents, collaborate with different registrar, because we probably have similar tool. We are happy to share that kind of tool and to identify what we discover from the tool. For example, like identify phishing tool, and that will be easier. But not all of the cybercrime are from phishing. They probably from different channel. The weakness for us is we only control one channel. We are provide domain name service, but for cybercrime, they probably have 10 channels. They have 5 public channels, like a Facebook, like a YouTube, and they have different kind of public channel. They could have private channel, like they can go to Line, go to WeChat. So they have multiple channel, and what they do is they try to maximize their outcome, depends on which channel get a much more outcome. They try to leverage that kind of channel. And from domain name point of view, we only control one particular channel. As long as they provide a website, we can identify them. Otherwise, it's very hard for us to tracking back if they go to different private channel, even to SMS. It's very hard for us to identify that kind of crime. Thank you.
Yep. Thank you very much, Doctor. Yes, that's one of the challenges that we also see on the phishing world, where scammers will use every inch of technology to hide themselves. They will go to text messages, platforms, Discords, Telegrams, you name it, anything that is available to reach their victims, they will use it to their advantage. And I think that we have mentioned here in this discussion, the collaboration is key to combat with the same amount of fronts that the scammers have. Like you said, they have multiple tools, multiple fronts that they take to their advantage. And if we collaborate on our side with multiple fronts, I think we can have a higher impact and allow most of the world to become a harder target for them to attack, right? To make them deterred and go do something else, right? To go try something else to target the victims. One of these topics here is that we're talking about is the concept of the trusted notifier, and I wanted to mention that our team is going to have the next section. They're going to be talking about this very specific topic, and I invite everyone on this webinar to also follow on that next conversation. The topic is going to be the trusted notifier concept, and they're going to dive deeper into that idea. Okay, so I don't have anything else from my end. I just want to thank you, all of the panelists. It's been a pleasure sharing this panel with you. I hope that to talk to you guys again and to meet you sometime in person. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very much.
Kenny?
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Very much. Bye.
Thank you very much, Melody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Bye-bye.
everyone. Take care.